we are continuing our learning journey with circles and looking at radius and diameter like we did in our last lesson. We talked about a circle being a round shape that has a center point, and all the places, every line that comes off of the center is the same distance. We talked about the line going across the center of a circle as the diameter, and then just from the center out, we call that the radius. And all of the radius have the same distance in each circle. Today, we are talking about circumference, and how do we find the circumference of a circle? Well, first of all, we need to talk about the circumference. What is the circumference? So, circumference is the distance around a circle. So if we were to take a walk around the circle, the distance that we walk around the circle is the circumference. It's almost like a perimeter. Okay, so the circumference is the distance around a circle. So I'm going to draw a circle. And if you remember from our last lesson, let's use a different color. We had, oops, where's my center point? There we go. All right, so we had the diameter. And we had the radius. And now we are going to have the circumference. The circumference is the start of around the circle and back again. Okay, that is your circumference. Okay, I made the outside really big. I probably should have just used a highlighter. That probably would have been smarter to do. So your circumference is when you walk around this outer line, that is your circumference. So ignore that outer line because that was trying to highlight, but I didn't do a very good job with that one. Okay, so the circumference of, the ratio of the circumference to the diameter is the same for every circle. So you can use the diameter and the ratio, or the radius, in order to find the circumference. And you can do this by using pi. Not like cherry or blackberry or pumpkin pie, but pi, the Greek letter. So we are going to start using the Greek letter pi. And the Greek letter pi looks like this. It is spelled as Pi, and it looks like this. Okay, sometimes they're really fancy and they look more like that. It just depends. They all mean the exact same thing. Pi means, in abbreviated form, in math, we often can use this symbol on a calculator for a very exact formula, or we can use approximations. So pi means exact. 3.14 or 22 divided by 7, these ones mean approximate. Okay, so when we use both of these numbers, we, or if we use this or this, we will get a different answer than if we use this. Pi is an irrational number, okay? It's irrational. It doesn't have an ending point. It's not like a real number, okay? It doesn't give you anything exact. because it can keep going. But this is a more exact form than this, which is an approximation. So we could solve a problem with pi and get totally different answers depending on if we put the pi symbol in or if we put this, okay? So in order to find the circumference of a circle, so in order to find the circumference, we're going to use the formula. We're going to use some formulas, okay? So the first formula that we can use is for circumference is pi times the diameter, okay? So you can also use it as C equals 3.14 times diameter, or C equals 22/7 times the diameter, depending on what the diameter is. Okay, so there is formula number one when you know the diameter. Okay, if you don't know the diameter, but you know the radius, you can still use circumference. And instead, we're going to use 2 times pi times the radius. Okay, if you want to use 3.14, you would do 2 times 3.14 times the radius, or circumference equals 2 times 22/7 times the radius. All of these will give you answers. These two will give you approximates. This one will give you a more exact number. Okay. So let's look at this in action. So let's do some examples. All right, so example A gives you an example of a circle, and the radius that it gives you is 5 inches. And it wants you to find the circumference. So the first thing that we want to look at is, what do we have? Well, we have the radius. So we're just going to use the radius and find the radius using either the pi symbol, 3.14, or 22/7. Okay, so we're going to find the circumference using the radius ones, and I'm just going to go for 3.14 because it's a decimal. Okay, so I'm going to say that circumference equals 2 times 3.14 times 5. Okay, so we're just going to multiply all of these things straight across in order to get our answer. We know that 2 times 5 is 10, right? So we could do 10 times 3.14 to get our final answer. So our circumference, or if you wanted to, you could just do 2 times 3.14 enter times 5. Always hit enter if you're not using a scientific calculator. So our circumference is going to be, from here all the way around, is going to be 31.4 inches. So if we were to walk around this circle, we would be walking 31.4 inches. Okay, what if we had a face of a watch? Okay, so let's say that we have a watch, and on our watch, our circumference is what we're looking for. Okay, so they're going to give us a watch. And as you're wearing your watch, you look down and you think, I wonder what the circumference of my watch face is. Well, you can find how far around your watch face is by finding the circumference. So I'm going to have a watch. And if we were in the 80s, this would be a swatch. So we're going to have a swatch. And we are given the diameter, or the distance across the middle. And they say that it is 28 millimeters. Okay, but we want to know, how big is it around? How far around is it? So we're going to use the formula for diameter because they give us the diameter. Okay, so diameter, circumference equals 3.14 times 28. So circumference equals, again, we can pull out our calculator. Circumference equals 3.14 times 28. So this is how you use pi. So our circumference is 87.92 millimeters. Okay, so the distance around the watch face is going to be 87.92 millimeters. All right, let's go ahead and go on to our another example, and then I will give you some try-its to do. All right. Nope, wrong way. All right. The circumference of a flying disc. So I'm going to guess this is like a frisbee. Has a radius of 8 centimeters. Okay, so we have a frisbee, and we're going to throw this frisbee. And the frisbee has a radius with a radius of 8 centimeters. So because they give this to us in words, we are welcome to draw a picture if that helps us to be able to picture this better. So I have a frisbee. Here's my frisbee. My radius, or my ray, manta ray, is 8 centimeters. Okay, so 8 centimeters, but I want to know what is the circumference. So what is the circumference? So circumference equals pi r, 2 pi r. So 2 pi r. 2 pi r. Oh, sorry, 2 pi r. Okay, so we're looking at 2 times pi times the radius. This time, if you want to use the pi button, you can. Let me see if I can pull up Desmos real quick so I can show it to you in action. Okay, so we have the Desmos calculator, and we can do this once we know what we're working with here. So we have our circumference. It's going to equal 2 times pi times the radius, which is 8. Well, I can combine 2 and 8 and get 16 times pi. So in my calculator, I'm going to do 16 times pi. And there is my answer. Notice how more exact this is. If we were to just do this with 3.14, it would only go out to the hundreds. But if you notice, it goes out much further. So because you have such a long number here, long number after the decimal, you only need the first 2 numbers. So you're going to round anyways, regardless if you use pi or if you use a fraction. So circumference equals 50, and we'll just round to the nearest hundredth. So we're going to use that 5 to round up and do 50.27. And that is centimeters. Okay, let's do one more, and then I will let you do your try-its. Okay. Oh, here we go. I use this color today. All right, example D. So example D, let's get rid of this little calculator here. We have the circumference of a clock. Okay, so they want us to find the circumference of a clock. And on the circumference of a clock, the information that they give us is that the diameter equals 21 inches. So diameter equals 21 inches. So we can, again, draw a picture of a clock, and we know diameter is all the way across the center. So that equals 21 inches. We're going to use the formula for finding circumference when we have the diameter. So when we have the diameter, it is just pi times the diameter. So pi times diameter. And our diameter is 21, so circumference equals pi times 21. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to pull up my Desmos again. And now I will do pi times 21. And I get 65.97344,573. We don't need that big long answer. So instead we can just say circumference equals 65 97 hundredths. And it is in inches. That is a really big clock around. A really big, oh, well, I guess inches, not really. But if we were to start here, the circumference would go around. I was thinking yards. Okay, let's do some try-its for you. All right, our try-its. Try-it number 1. Ooh. Okay, the object that we have is 2 centimeters across a coin. So we have a car wash coin. And in the car wash coin, oh, you can't see behind my little calculator here. Okay, in the car wash coin, we have, that is horrible, the radius, and the radius is 2 centimeters. Okay, and number 2, oh my goodness, we have an inflatable pool, and in our inflatable pool, the diameter is 14 feet. So it's 14 feet across. Your job is to tell me the circumference using 3.14 or 22/7. Okay? So go ahead and hit pause right now so you don't hear me solving. And then when you're ready, come on back to check your work. All right, so circumference when we have the radius. So radius is 2 pi r. And it wants me to use 3.14 or 22/7. So I will do C equals 2 pi times 2. And let's go ahead and use a fraction this time because I didn't do that. So 2 times 2 is 4 times 22/7. And so that gives us 88 divided by 7. 77 is 11. So 11 would give us 77. And then 11, 12, 7 plus 3 is 84. So that uses up 84. So centimeters equals 12. And then we would have 4/7 left. Or they say that 4/7 is about, what try is this? They say it is 56 hundredths. And that is centimeters. Okay, so you have to convert that to hundredths. All right, next we have 14 feet. So it's 14 feet across. They want to know the circumference. So circumference equals pi times the diameter. So circumference equals pi times 14 feet, or circumference equals 3.14 times 14. And again, we can just pull our little calculator out, clear it out, and do 3.14 times 14. So our circumference equals 43 96 feet. All right, it is your turn to answer your essential question now. How do you solve for the circumference? And then put your level of understanding out to the side. When you are finished, you can come on back to the Google Meet and ask for help, or you may go on and do your practice work. As always, I appreciate all of your hard work and effort, and make it a great day.